Thanks for humoring me and listening to Robbie. And we're going to dive right in. And thank you and welcome to the last Thursday of the month club. It is on the last Thursday of the month. And we are at the last Thursday of the month of January 2025. So wishing you all the best for 2025. Hopefully it's a magical year. If there is something that I've learned over the years, it's up to me. It's up to you if it's going to be magical. And hopefully we can have a magical year. And thank you for coming and making tonight magical for us, giving us the opportunity. We have these monthly to share content, to give people the opportunity to network. But what we do it for too is a recording. So we are live streaming. We will be taking the videos, posting them on our social media, and making them available for a large portion of the community to be able to see. So yeah, please forgive us for the camera that is there, and you'll see Lindsay perhaps moving around a little bit, but it is so that we do have content so that we can share with it as many people as we possibly can. And maybe at that stage, I'm going to say to Lindsay, how do we share it? What do we do? From a social media and a perspective, it's very important that we get our message out to as many people as possible. Lindsay, tell us, how do we do that?
We have multiple social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and then obviously our website. So we would really love it if you guys could follow us on Instagram, engage with our content, follow us on Facebook or like us on Facebook, and as well as LinkedIn. And our details are there. It's at candid2020.sa on Instagram. We've also got QR codes for you to scan if you want to. That'll take you right to our Instagram and Facebook page at the end of the night.
What we'd like you to do is to share it.
Yeah, share a story or something like that on your Instagram, tag us. Yeah.
And you might think, why? What are we trying to do? Well, the reality, we at Candid 2020 have a lot of information that we need to share, that we want to share. And unfortunately, sometimes it's very difficult to make sure each and every person gets it. So on all of our social media, we post regularly different things that may be happening from a discovery perspective, from an industry perspective, and also from a financial planning perspective. So the more people that do see it, the better it is. And I cannot believe, I watched a video the other day on LinkedIn and I couldn't believe what I was missing out on and not doing. So anybody who is here that needs to be on LinkedIn, go and learn, because I promise you, you can't believe what we're missing out on in terms of that. So as you know, tax planning, retirement planning, but before we get started on that, and Lindsay is going to be my clicker and she's left the room, so bear with me a second as we click past it. We've got 3 segments to our audience. And when it comes to retirement planning or life planning, whatever you want to be calling it, Lindsay, I'm not sure why it's gone haywire there. Financial coaching, advanced financial coaching with the University of the Free State. I completed that last year. One of the modules was on people's thoughts and beliefs with regards to retirement. There's an incredible book called The 100-Year Plan, The 100-Year Life Plan. It's written by 2 British professors from the London Business School, and they talk about how our planning for retirement has to change. It is not sustainable. The old thinking of 25 years of education, 40 years of work to fund 20 years of retirement is gone, because we have longevity. We have people living longer. We have the need for capital to be available for a lot longer than that simple 20-year period. Never mind the economy and the situation that we find ourselves in, but also a case of what retirement actually is. So today, if we look around the room, those 3 categories, life stages, if you want to call it that. Are we in the young educational stage? Are we in the young working professional and the professionals, or the working people? Are we the retired? Tonight or today, and I hope I'm not going to bore the older clientele within the room today, we are talking about planning for retirement and the importance of it. And what I'd urge you to do as you sit in the room today is to think, who could you be sharing that message with? Could you be sharing it with your children, with your grandchildren? And the more people that know and hear the message that we have to share tonight is important. My focus today is to the middle group at the back there. Raise your hands, shout out loud. Okay, Matthew, yes. That's you. But our message tonight is to that working age group from the age of 25 to the age of 65. Where are you in that stage? How do we get you to be working? I forgot about the 2B down there. My apologies. And anybody else in the room that fits that category. But tonight we're talking around that. Where do we go to from then? And if you're at 65 or older or close to it, what does retirement actually look like? And I try and encourage my clients to actually start talking about retirement from the ages of 45, 50, of what you actually want retirement to look like, to start making changes to your lifestyles to allow you to be able to accommodate retirement. Because if we don't know where we're going, we'll never get there. We'll just be like a boat without any sails on and hope and pray that something actually happens and takes us somewhere. So what does it actually look like? From a financial planning perspective, which is where our focus is going to go today, we look at the holistic financial plan that you have. It is impossible for a financial advisor, in my opinion, to look at one of your segments in isolation. If we're looking after your investments, we're in a position to look after your medical aid, your short-term insurance, your other risks, because we know what capital we have available or what capital we don't have available. And that is a very important matter when we start to look at medical aids and how do we upgrade, downgrade, and make sure that it's going to be sustainable in the long run. So in my opinion, a financial advisor needs to have a holistic view of your entire portfolio in order to be able to educate and guide you down the road. You need a trusted advisor who's going to be holding your hand through that process. We are going to be looking on investment planning. We're going to be looking at pre-retirement planning. Retirement planning takes form, pre and post. We will have a session on post. We'll encourage you to come back and re-look at that and see how and where you make your money go a bit further. But as I say, tonight is pre. Why is tonight pre? Lindsay, we're going on to the next slide. And we're talking pre because it's tax season. Tax season is from the beginning of March, each and every year, to the end of February every year. So by the 28th, 29th, we're given an extra day every 4 years. But on the 28th, 29th of February, all of your affairs need to be in order from a SARS perspective. So why do we talk tax season? Tax season primarily means that you are paying tax, right? We all know that that's one of the realities of life, death and taxes, and even death in taxes in death. So we're talking taxes today, we're talking pay as you earn. What we want to do is actually say to you tonight, do you know what your taxable income is? And I know I've said tonight is to the youngsters from a pre-retirement. However, please don't lose sight of the fact that even as you retire, you're still paying tax. You still have a responsibility and a liability to SARS. How do you manage that effectively? And that's critical that you sit with a financial advisor who can guide you to make sure it's tax efficient. So while we're talking taxable income, how do we know what our taxable income is? It's quite simple. We take into account our earnings. And those earnings can be from various sources. Salaries, consulting jobs, side hustles, whatever it may be. Interest gives us an income. Any interest that you're earning on your investments is taxable income. It could be your income from your living annuity. It could be rental income. There are many sources of income that are going to be taxable. I can't think of any income that's not taxable. So any time you're earning money, unless it is as a result of after-tax money. So in other words, investments that I have and I'm drawing a regular income from it, everything else is taxable. When you know what your taxable income is, that's important to be able to say that is what SARS is going to look at, and they're going to put it into a tax table. And that tax table is going to give us a figure that needs to be paid in the form of income tax. They change every year in the budget, and the minister increases, decreases, change the bands, etc. But when you know your taxable income, it goes into pay-as-you-earn tables, and an amount is now liable and payable to SARS. Typically, if you're earning a salary, there's pay-as-you-earn that is coming off. It says, as it is, pay as you earn. So each month, your employer is saying, how much should we be paying SARS? We're going to pay it across to SARS, and hopefully at the end of the year, we reconcile. But don't worry about it. SARS will do it for you, and they'll either say you owe us or we owe you. More often than not, you owe us. So when we know what our taxable income is, we've got that, we've got our pay-as-you-earn. We then need to say, are we contributing to a retirement fund? What is a retirement fund? There are fancy names for it. There are all sorts of different terms, but the typical ones that we look at is pension or a provident fund, a retirement annuity. Discovery in their true fashion do it really well and call it a Discovery Retirement Optimizer is one of our solutions because we're optimizing it. And I'll share with you some ideas on that a bit later. But retirement funds is typically something that is registered with the Pensions Fund Act or in terms of the Pensions Fund Act, and they have to comply with what they are going to do with the money. So if I put my money into a savings account, I might be thinking I'm going to use that for retirement, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that's not a retirement savings. So retirement savings is taxed and dealt with in terms of legislation, and there's a lot of rules and regulations around it. So pension fund, provident fund, those are typically your corporate schemes, and retirement annuities, Discovery Retirement Optimizer, or your personal plans that you have in place. Now we're going to look at your allowable tax deduction. And SARS gives us an allowable tax deduction. And some people will say SARS doesn't give us anything. Well, they do. For a number of years, from as long as I can remember, and it's a kind of a long time, it's been 15% of your taxable earnings. They realized that we as a country were in dire straits because if I start to save 15% at 50, I don't stand a chance of getting anywhere close to retirement. So they changed it and they increased it to 27.5%. So 27.5% of your taxable earnings can be used as a tax deduction against your income that you are going to be taxed on, right? It's capped, however, at 350,000 Rand. And that capping is to stop the mega wealthy from using all of the laws and the regulation and legislation to their advantage, which they've done for a number of years, if they were smart and in tune with a good financial advisor. So whilst we have that cap, that doesn't mean you can't contribute more. You certainly can. You won't get the tax deduction this year. You will get the tax deduction when you retire. So if you have the opportunity to do a lot more than 350,000, do it. And know you're deferring that allowance for when you do retire ultimately from your pension, retirement funds, etc. Given you a brief calculation there. In preparation for today, Lindsay and I had a look and we said, what is the average professional income in South Africa? And within the working population, the average income is 28,000 Rand. 28,000 Rand, this person earning this income is paying pay-as-you-earn of 4,200 Rand. The higher his salary, her salary goes, the higher the tax will go because it's not a flat percentage. The rate increases exponentially. Anybody know the highest tax rate that you can pay? 45%. Yeah. So this person, I haven't done the calculation to work it out, possibly sitting at about 18, 20%, possibly somewhere around there. His allowable tax deduction, and I don't know why I'm being gender specific and saying he, why am I not saying she? Because she would be earning more. He, she, they would be earning, they have a tax deduction, that's what you get for trying to be funny. They would have an allowable tax deduction of 7,700 Rand. 27.5% of the 28,000 Rand. If they contributed that 7,700 to an allowable pension, retirement, provident fund, their tax would drop. They would now be paying tax on an amount of 20,300, right? And instead of paying 4,200, they would pay 2,200 Rand. So they would pay less tax to SARS, and they would have an asset of 7,700 growing and compounding over a period of time. And that's what we mean by saying, let's make your salary tax efficient. Let's make sure you are saving the maximum amount that you can and reducing your tax as much as you possibly can. Any questions on that number and that thought? Have I got everybody taken you there?
I just want to cross-check my understanding. So it's a good thing if you're working to make sure that your employer deducts your pension or your provident fund contribution before tax.
So there's two schools of thoughts there, and it depends how complicated you want to be and where your logic and your thinking goes. If I earn the 28,000 Rand and I don't tell my employer about it, they're going to tax me on 28,000 Rand, right? Because they don't know about my retirement savings. When it gets to the end of the tax year and SARS does his reconciliation, each and every insurance company is obliged to send through all of their data to SARS to say Shirley contributed 7,700 times 12, and I will get a refund from SARS. I could go back to HR and say to HR payroll, please consider it. The insurance company, your broker, ourselves, Candid 2020, will give you the information so that HR payroll can deduct it and you'll pay less. Which is better? Well, I don't want to wait for SARS to give me a refund. I'd rather have the money in my bank account if I could. But some people want to say, I'm going to use that refund to go on holiday. So it's a form of forced saving. So it's entirely up to you. One way or another, you're getting your money. And that's what I think is important. I always think a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. But that's my thinking and my logic. John, you had a question?
I think you answered it. It's your choice then to say I like it to be done monthly or annually. But if you're doing that, you should highlight it.
Absolutely. Spot on.
How does that work with provisional tax? If you're provisional taxpayer and you deduct 40K provisional, or does it have to be part of your return?
No, it should be part, as you're calculating your provisional tax, you should take it into account because you're aware of the fact that your contributions have been paid. So it would be part of your provisional tax calculation. Okay. Yes.
To click on a provisional tax, how then the size determined? Do they look at what you paid in the past and take a lump sum?
No. SARS will give you an estimate there. However, it is your responsibility, your accountant's responsibility to declare what you envisage your income is going to be for the next year. So SARS don't know. If you do not submit a return, they're going to assume that you're not compliant, and they will then say this is the tax until such time as they get the actual formal evidence when you submit your return.
Getting that it's just a lump sum that become a provisional tax amount, not.
No, it should be a sit down with your accountant. What do you think you're earning? What are your expenses? Where are you at? We think you're going to be earning X amount. We're going to put that in. You get 3 returns for a provisional, first, second, and then the third is to go, oops, wait, hold on, we made a bit of a mistake. This is actually how we've ended. So the first 2 are estimates. The second one is this is how we're tracking. Let's name him, and it's your fault because we gave it a Bob instead of a Sarah. So Bob is earning his 28,000 Rand. And let's have a look and say, right, okay, what is Bob's tax savings? And is he maximizing on his benefit? And how do we help Bob use SARS to actually look after his retirement? And why do you think SARS would give us a tax deduction? To encourage us to actually save for our old age so that they have less people dependent on the grant, if you can think that that's even a possibility. But it's to encourage people to actually start saving. And that's why the 15 went to 27.5%. So what we would do with our clients is we'd sit with them and say, how much are you contributing? Where are you contributing? Because people do have corporate work with a pay slip and a deduction. They do have side hustles, etc. So we look and we add up all of their income, and then we say, right, where are you contributing? Because somebody will have started an old mutual policy when they were at university, or they had this policy there, and they might have 3 or 4 different places. We then add all of that up to say, right, how much are you contributing, and how much should we and could we be contributing to get to the 27.5% capped at the 350. So what we do for a lot of our clients is we say, now I'm hoping I'm not jumping ahead of myself here, is have something in place. Stretch yourself. I'll get there. But have a compulsory debit order. Somehow, by the grace of God, in some instances, we pay our debit orders. But we don't put money in our savings account somehow. I don't know why. Make sure that debit order comes off, force it. Stretch it, make sure you can survive, but it's there. At the end of December, January, start sitting down and saying, how much was my income? How much have I spent on saved on retirement? How short am I? And make contact with us to be able to put in a lump sum to top up that 350. And that is why tonight is so important for tax season. You are given the next 3 weeks to be able to correct any of your contributions that you haven't made to maximize the 27.5%. A great position to be in with the side hustles, consultants, business entrepreneurs who don't necessarily know that their income is as regular as 28,000 Rand every month. So have something that you commit to and then top it up before the end of the tax year, which is in the next 3 weeks. Everything we want in, preferably by the 20th of the month, so we can make sure everything gets allocated properly. Don't do what we did last year. Did our lump sum on the 28th, and it only got paid into the investment account after things happened on the 8th or the 9th, and now we have to pay SARS. So give yourself plenty of time to be able to make sure that the paperwork is done and the funds are allocated into your investment. Now we've got our investment, right? And I use this, anybody who sat with me for any consultation regarding investments or anything will have had a look at this. I call it Investing 101. That wrapper around the end is our retirement wrapper. I get quite annoyed when I read articles and hear news clips from people saying retirement annuities are a waste of money. And I can sit and I can argue until the cows come home, but that is not the case. Having said that, the underlying assets, the underlying funds, certainly can be a waste of money because we may not have had it structured correctly. So when we look at this wrapper, we look at the underlying asset classes, we look at the underlying asset managers, we look at fund performance. Historically is all we've got to go with. There will be ups and downs Our goal and our objective is to make sure we have more ups than we have the downs. However, if we sit and we do the numbers, I'll do them for you happily. You're going to outperform what your money in your bank account is going to be doing. Why can I say that comfortably? Because if you have your money in your bank account, you're paying tax on the interest that you're earning. So you're paying off more on what you're actually earning there. Whereas here, within our retirement wrapper, any growth or any interest is not taxable. So not only are SARS giving us the 27.5% deduction capped at 350, they are also telling you that any funds invested within that pension provident retirement wrapper is not going to be taxed. There's a clever advert at the moment that I'm listening to on Jacaranda where it says zero, and that's zero tax. So we've got our retirement wrapper. Another one that I want to just touch base on is the tax-free investment. Tax-free investment was introduced a couple of years ago, maybe about, I don't know, everything feels like 4 years ago, but I think it was probably about 8 years or 10 years ago. Tax-free investments were introduced, allowing each and every taxpayer the opportunity to invest money on a monthly or on an annual basis into an investment that is not going to accrue any tax. There's rules, maximum of 36,000 Rand a year to a maximum of 500,000 in your lifetime. So people say to me, I'm not going to do a retirement annuity, I'm going to do a tax-free investment. Well, Bob can do a tax-free investment, but he can only do 3,300, whatever the number is per month, because he's got a 36,000 Rand limit for the year. If he pays more into that, hopefully the institutions don't allow it, he will be taxed at 45% on any difference. So it's very important. Plus, we have that 500,000 Rand lifetime limit. Logic would say, well, you know what, I've put in 36. I need to go on holiday. Let me take my 36. I can put it back in. Every time you take out, you are depleting your 500,000 lifetime allowance. And not many people know that. So tax-free investments have their place. Make sure that you're contributing to one. And again, they have to be in place before the end of February.
So it's not the loophole that people.
No, not at all. And in fact, it was very strategic because what they did is, you may remember from years gone by that there was an interest exemption when you submitted your tax returns. And every year in the budget, they would say, we've increased the interest exemption, but they would go up ever so slightly. And now what they've said is, we don't need to worry about increasing that amount because we're giving you the opportunity to invest your 36, which is compensating for that creep in terms of what interest would be doing with inflation. And that's the logic behind it. Great opportunity, not something to be overlooked, and a very important opportunity for our wealthy clients to be saying, I'm going to do an investment for my child, for my grandchildren. Provided it's not, here's for my grandchild, and maybe if they need to go on school tour, they can use it, because now we've actually snookered them because it's their 500,000 lifetime. Sorry?
You've snookered yourself.
You snookered yourself because you'll end up paying for the school fund anyway, and the trip, and the, but yeah, sorry, you had a question.
I guess you can only have one tax-free.
You can have 3 or 4 tax-free accounts,
Okay, let's say for instance.
but capped
for
at
example,
36.
I arrange a tax-free account for my grandchild. Yeah. Could I have a tax-free account for myself
Yes,
at the same time?
yes. So you're tax-free, so it's one taxpayer. So you've got your child, you can have your tax-free for your child, you can have one for you,
The ID number.
per ID number,
Oh, the ID number.
How many
Thank you.
grandchildren?
per ID, 100, your choice. We start to get, I hope you have it. We start to get a bit tricky because if I have 10 grandchildren, and I'm giving them 36,000 each, that's 360,000. Tax-free investments are going to love it. That's not a problem. We've got no problem there. But I, as a taxpayer, am only allowed to donate 100,000 rand in every tax year. So now it could be looked at as to say, how did they get the money? Should donations tax have been paid? But it is still a great investment and something I would encourage. Yes.
Shirley, is there a way to find out how far off you are on your lifetime without success? Based on maybe historically you've had tax-free investments.
I would imagine, it's a good question, Sawaba, I'm not sure. I would imagine SARS is keeping track of that. It's in their best interest to be, and I would imagine that's where it is going to be. Remember, at the tax year, you tell SARS about your tax-free investment and you tell SARS if you've disinvested. It's one of the questions when submitting your tax return. So they're going to be keeping track of all of that.
So maybe it's worth calling.
And or looking at your historic tax returns. But calling is probably not a bad idea, and then share with us what the answer was. Perfect. Any questions? Tax-free investments, important, should be part of your portfolio. It does not replace retirement planning at all, categorically. It's a tax-free investment, and there are lots of vehicles for it. It could be a bank account. It could be a flexible investment, which then goes into the market in my good old graph, where it could be in equities, it could be in cash. So every financial institution offers them, or most of them, 99% of them. In our Discovery Bank account, for all of the Discovery Bank holders, you're able to open a Discovery Bank account tax-free investment. You can go into our flexible investments, which is, and then have a tax-free investment within that. So every financial institution has them. We'll chat to you afterwards, Zoe, and get one set up. Sorry?
We don't encourage the bank.
We don't encourage the bank because the interest rates are limited to what interest rates are within the bank. And if we're investing this money for a long term, right? Because it's our 500,000 rand lifetime allowance, why would we want long-term money in a lazy bank account? We need to make sure that our tax-free money is going into an aggressive portfolio because we shouldn't be touching it. So it should be growing, it should be aggressive.
When you say that you don't trust banks,
No, we trust banks.
well, you rather not trust the banks, but number of portfolios. And let's say we want to now basically to say, hey, someone gray or why not to say.
So there's lots of different. Alan Gray, who's Alan Gray? Did you mean Discovery? So no, it's not that we don't like the bank accounts. We would, and bank accounts, when I say bank accounts, we have a bank account, right? It's interest, it's there. Some of the banks offer investments and you can then get into the markets. We're saying don't leave it in a bank and in a cash account. Should I use that term? Have it in equities, have it in the market, rather than sitting necessarily in cash. And it's irrelevant where it goes. Make sure it's growing. Make sure the fees are good. A very good place, very good place for in my opinion, for tax-free investments, because you're not going to look at it very often. It's not a huge amount of your portfolio, is to look at exchange traded funds potentially. Low fees, leave it alone, let it just run, and you're going to get good performance over the long term.
Sorry, yeah, well, maybe a bit unrelated, but if you have a savings account, what's the maximum tax-free interest
I
amount?
stand corrected, but I think it's 28,000 or 32,000 rand per year.
Yeah.
There's two amounts, one for under 65 and one for over. And I stand corrected, it's in the region of about 30,000.
Thanks.
It's a long time since I wrote my CFP.
So for children, you can still open a tax-free account for it. For our newborns, You come here and travel.
Absolutely. However, they turn 18, whose money is it? It's theirs. No, it's not. It's theirs. Her ID number. It's their money. If it's yours, it's your ID number.
It's also not be unrelated, but when you send the ID number, does it mean that the people need to be South African citizens? Yes. So us with family overseas cannot sell this to people who say that they don't live in.
He gets left either.
If they have not got an ID, no. If they were here, had an ID and gone overseas, yes, they could have that. But now we're getting technical, financial immigration, etc. But okay, the big question, and I get it all day, every day when I talk to all of my clients, I can't afford to save for retirement. And I simply go, can you afford not to? And I know times are tough, and I know you have to have pay bills. But I also know that the clients that tell me they can't afford to retirement are sitting next to me when I do my nails at Sorbet. And then I go, can you afford not to? And it's a case of priorities. And it's a case of saying, how do we make the most of it? And ladies, gents, that doesn't mean I don't advocate going and feeling beautiful. Feel beautiful. I love my life. Do what you need to do to love your life. But also at the same time, be realistic. You cannot afford to bury your head in the sand and hope and pray it's going to come right. It's not. So if we look at it, and just some stats that might be quite scary. Formal sector, legally registered taxpayers. So that's employees, your business owners that are paying tax, that are legally registered. We've got about 6.7 million of them. Sorry? That work for corporates. That work for corporates, my apologies. That work for corporates. Thanks, Lindsay. Guess you built the slides. So 6.7 million that work for corporates. They potentially have a pension or a provident fund. Potentially. Those in the informal employment, it's important, or those of you in the formal employment sector, it's important that you know your numbers. What do I mean by that? I work at a corporate's looking after me, I'm going to be fine, right? Well, what they all do, or they're starting, and some, and not them all, let me restate that, is they change taxable income to pensionable income. And some of my taxable income, I know I have to pay tax on it, is not considered as part of my pensionable income. They'll take out maybe your car allowances, your travel allowances, maybe your pensions, maybe your bonuses, etc. They will maybe say it is actually only 60% of your salary. And that will be your pensionable salary that you'll be contributing to your pension on. You will get to retirement age and you'll go, but I haven't got enough. Because you didn't realize they were actually only contributing on 60% of your salary. So it's incredibly important for you to get to know your numbers.
How much is it now?
Well, I'm getting there. You could answer that one. No? Yes? That's a loaded question. Understand your numbers if you're on a pension provident fund. Remember, who are you listening for tonight? If you've got children in employment, go and ask them if they check their pension or not. We don't unless we know. Understand your taxable versus your pensionable. The remaining 3.1 million consultants, medical practitioners, business owners, side hustles, and a very large portion of our population, right? We can hear that it's hard to get jobs. The corporates are cutting. Then we have to go and start making alternative plans. I have very few of my younger clients, and I have a lot of them, who actually work for formal employment. 7.5 million people in the informal sector that have no pension provident fund. So if we look at it, we've done a rough calculation, got about 10.6 million people that are contributing to the economy in terms of the base that we are looking at. 10.6 of them left to their own devices to do something. And those people are waiting until they can afford to save for retirement. And I don't know when you can afford to save for retirement. I don't know when you can afford to get married. I don't know when you can afford to have a child. I don't know. When I was young, I just did it and made it happen. I know that you can never afford to start saving for retirement. You have to. It's not even a question. We look at how much is enough. There's a formula out there that's called the rule of 25 that gets thrown around the financial services industry. And if we look at the rule of 25, essentially what it's saying is my budget, my needs, my income, multiplied by 12 to get an annual, multiplied by 25, gives you a good rule of thumb of how much money you need today to be able to continue to earn your 28,000 Rand. It's a guesstimate. It is something rather than nothing. So if you're sitting here and you're going, how much? Take out your calculator, your salary or your budget, multiplied by 12, multiplied by 25 is a good number that you should have in the bank. And then you could be starting to consider being financially free. However, we have a very horrible thing that creeps into our lives more often than not in this country, and that's inflation. If we just look at it 10 years ago, the equivalent of earning 28,000 Rand today was 16,000 Rand 10 years ago, just with inflation. And that was an inflation rate that I would argue and debate. I think it was a 5%, 5.8, close to 6%. What is true inflation? I know medical aids is what? 10. Education is what? 10. She hasn't educated a child yet. So inflation is critical. 28,000 in 10 years. You'll need to be earning 46,000 to do exactly what you're doing today. Inflation is scary. And that's what chucks the rule of 25 out and into the water. And that's why it's critical that you sit with a professional to ask them how much is enough. We still use estimates. What is inflation? What are we anticipating the growth of the investments to be? But we give you a very good idea of what that number should be in order for you to sustain your lifestyle going further forward. They are frightening numbers. Sometimes I don't like to use them because it scares people so much that they do nothing. But I think it's critical that you know, and then you say, right, what can I do? And then our role is to say, well, sorry for you. You're not going to retire at 65. You're going to have to find an income until you are 75. Or sorry for you, you're not going to live on 28,000 Rand. You're actually only going to be able to live on 18,000 Rand. And now you can start to make lifestyle adjustments and changes of how am I going to earn an income till I'm 75? Or how am I going to juggle my expenses so that I can live on 18? And the choice is yours. But a professional is going to guide you and give you that information. And that is why we say it is critical for you to know your numbers. And now is better than ever. So if we go back to Bob, 6% of South Africans can retire comfortably. And I don't know if comfortably is comfortable today, 6%. And you're quite right. If we carry on doing what we're doing, that number is going to reduce and reduce and reduce. It's 2% that can retire comfortably. The other 4% are retiring and making it work. And the others are struggling and really becoming critical. 35% of the middle class have no retirement savings. We're on a road to absolute disaster. 25, Ryan, is the ideal age to start. The rule is that if you start at 25 and you contribute 15% of your earnings every month for the rest of your life, increasing every time you have an increase. When you get to 65, which is not the rest of your life, as the rest of the group will tell you in the room, but when you get to 65, you will have enough of a capital base to draw the last salary you had for the rest of your life. But we don't start at 25, and we don't increase it every time we have an increase. And we use it because, well, we want to renovate the house when we leave our job and we need to access it, or we think we maybe should settle that and pay that, because life happens. I'm not saying it's wrong, but then don't expect to retire comfortably if that's not what you're doing. So if we look at it, and I just want to show you a little bit about compound interest. Albert Einstein said it was the eighth wonder of the world. He also went on to say that those who understand it earn it. Those who don't understand it pay it. Quite deep, and when you think about it and hear it, just keep saying that to yourself until the penny drops. If I'm borrowing and borrowing and borrowing, I'm paying compound interest. If I am earning and saving, I'm growing, growing, growing. So, Albert Einstein, this just gives you an indication. Starting at 25, putting away 500 Rand a month, the future value calculations using exactly the same principles. I'll have invested 240,000 Rand. By the time this person reaches 65, 40 years, they would have an amount of 1.5 million. That's the growth. Sorry, that's the interest they've earned. The total amount would be 1.7 million. If they wait 10 years and do exactly the same thing, they will only have 750,000 Rand. Ryan, can you afford to wait? So if we have a look at it and we go on to the next slide, Lindsay, sorry.
More question more as which is old and maybe it's not going to divide.
We'll give you the actual rule for you. Come and see us. We'll tell you what it needs to be. What we do at Candid 2020 is we have a personal life plan that we talk all of our clients through. And that personal life plan looks at what you've got, what you need, where you are. And this, Sipe, to get to your answer, is exactly how much should I have? And we do that with each and every one of our clients, and each and every time we see you, we use this exact same calculator, we use this exact same process, and we go through the numbers to guide and advise you in terms of how to be getting to the goal. We encourage everybody to start. We try not to scare them off with the big numbers. We try to say, do something rather than nothing. Why Discovery? We have a shared value integration model. Our shared value model is what Discovery has been built on over the last, I don't know, 30 years, is it now 32? I can't quite remember the number. Since it has been born, it is shared value. And that shared value comes in so many different ways. Be it on the health side, be it on the life side, the insurer, the bank, wherever it is. On the investment side, what we do is we have an opportunity where we say, let's take our shared value model and let's give you the opportunity to grow your capital as much as possible. So we have, what is your vitality status? My clients that are my clients, have been my clients for a while, will know. Blue, bronze, silver, gold, diamond. We want you a diamond because then you're a client that's maximizing the benefits across Discovery without question. Zoe did it in how many months?
30 still brings to confidence.
Mike, who I met how many years ago, told me he would never walk. He did not want to exercise. He said, puffing away on his cigarette at his kitchen door. He picked up his 100th shirt for Vitality Active Rewards a couple of weeks ago, which means, for those of you who don't know, that he has been active for 100 weeks in a row without skipping, and that gets tough because you start off at 100, 200, 300, but you go to 900. And when you go to 900, you have to exercise. I have to get 100 points tomorrow, so I have to decide, am I doing the steps or am I doing some exercise? So your vitality status, it's not hard. It's easy to get to gold. It's a bit tough to get to diamond. You need to be able to be sure that your BMI and your blood pressure and everything is all in order. But the idea is to try and get you there. But if we don't, we're at silver, we're at bronze, we're still going to get some benefit. So we look at your vitality money status, your vitality health status, your vitality drive status, your active rewards, how many times you're getting your goals, and we give you a boost. And that boost can be from nothing, well, nothing ventured, nothing gained, up to a maximum of 8% of your contribution paid into your investment by Discovery's money. You need to have a look at it. You've got a point there. We must look at it. So why Discovery? I don't know any other competitors giving that type of reward. Yes, there are other types and there's different words for it. Let's analyze how and where they come in and where they suit your portfolio and if they are better for you. Retirement structures. You may have had that Old Mutual from varsity days. You may have your preservation funds from when you worked at that corporate 5 years ago. All of those funds are all sitting there and they have an opportunity to work. Make sure you get to know where they're working, how they're working. And if you give Discovery the opportunity to invest those funds, do a Section 14 transfer into the Discovery stable, where we have incredible asset managers available. We have a boost that is given based on your number of years to retirement. So that boost will give you an opportunity at age 65 to have up to, and they have specials periodically, 15, 12% of your capital. So if we're chasing numbers to get to that golden line at the end of time, we need to be maximizing as much as we can. And more importantly, it puts it into a trusted advisor space where it can be monitored and managed, and we can make sure that we're doing the switching of the funds and trying to get the best performance we possibly can. Post-retirement, why Discovery is even sweeter, because you have the opportunity, once you are retiring, of drawing down the least possible capital and getting up to 50% boost on your income every month. So when you have a retirement annuity or a pension or a provident fund and you are transferring it to a living annuity, make sure you have spoken to us. Make sure you know what contribution boost you could be getting on your living annuities. It could change your life. I've seen it. We've experienced it. So although we're talking pre-retirement, please don't lose sight of the post. We will be having another session where we talk post-retirement. We will also be having an under 35 night coming up. Watch this space.
I'll be invited.
There will be pumping music and musicians and cocktails and all sorts of good stuff. In fact, I may not even be invited myself. I will be leaving it to Lindsay and all the actuaries to hear and answer what they have. What's quite important as well is for us, while we're talking retirement planning, is to talk about the two-pot system. The two-pot system went live on the 1st of September 2024. And essentially what it is it's giving the population the opportunity to access some of their retirement savings before retirement. When I first heard about it, I went, oh my word, what are we doing? Are we crazy? Are we foolish? What are we doing? And I started to unpack it and learn it so that we can share it with our employers, groups, our pension funds, and our employees. And I then realized it was incredibly tactical because there are limits. Those limits are relatively low. What they have done in the background in conjunction with it is that they have said that any contributions to a pension or a provident fund from the 1st of September onwards will not be accessible in full when you retire from when you resign from an employer. In the past, when you resigned, you got all of your money and you could do with it what you want. Now you can't. So they've given and taken to be strategic. It's not bad. We needed to have some relief for families and households that were in dire straits, and that was the way they could do it. COVID was one of those situations. However, it comes at a huge price. It is probably the most expensive way to access capital because you are using your 500,000 tax-free amount before you turn 65 or retire. And what many people don't realize is that is massive. They are going to pay tax on their withdrawal. So if they are drawing 30,000, they will pay tax on it. And they are losing the tax-free benefit. So there's a double whammy. I discourage it emphatically. I try to encourage people to use alternative means. If it's unable or unavailable, sure. But it's certainly something to be considered very, very carefully. If you want to know more on it, if you have employer groups that need to know more on it, please let us know. So what do we expect from you? If you're under the age of 60, book a consultation with us. Come and sit with us and do your numbers. Check and see how you're tracking. Look after yourself first. There is a reason why they say in the aeroplane, put on your oxygen mask first. Once you've looked after yourself, look after your friends. Look after your family. Your friendship circle that sits around you, stay with you for a long period of time if you're a good friend, if they're a good friend. There's nothing worse than getting to retirement and wanting to go on holiday and your friends can't afford it. It's lonely. Take them with you. Make sure that they can go on holiday with you and pay their own way. Share the knowledge. Share it with your employer. If you're in a small business and they don't have a pension or provident fund, don't let ignorance allow people to not have the opportunities. Let us put in place pension funds, provident funds with them. Let's make sure that they can look after their staff. Send us a WhatsApp by the end of February, 20th of February, to tell us what you've done. We walk out of these sessions every last Thursday of the month, and somebody says to me, was it worth it? And I have no idea how to value it. So I ask you tonight to please send me a WhatsApp, to send us an email and tell us what you got out of tonight and what you did. Then we know it's worth it. Then we know standing here, preparing, sharing our love and care with you is actually valuable and worth it. Our more mature audience, tell your children and your grandchildren. Make sure that they're aware of it. Get them to come and see us. Get them to book a consultation. Thanks, Zoe. She did. We met her gorgeous son. He's young enough to be mine. But he is certainly listening, and it's very interesting to see how they communicate so differently and how they actually need guidance and assistance and are hungry for it when they get their appetite whet. Tell them your stories. We've been through so many years where money is not spoken about, and I don't know why. Tell them how you saved. Tell them why you started later than you wanted to. Tell them why you did what you did. Tell them whether you think it was good or bad. That way they learn. They can have access to that information. Let them learn from your successes or your shortfalls. and then refer your children to us. We do our business here, and that pays for all of the opportunity for us to have these evenings, and I love them, we love them. And we can do that by word of mouth, and we have built our business on word of mouth, and for that we're eternally grateful. But get serious about your financial position. Your future self will thank you for it. And at that stage, I'm going to ask you if you have any questions. And if there is any additional information we can have before I tell you that next month's last Thursday of the month club is going to be vitality, vitality, vitality. And I say that because there are 3 vitalities: vitality health, vitality money, vitality drive, and we will be crossing between all of those. And I say vitality, vitality, vitality because it is the heartbeat of everything that is done within the value proposition. And if you are not doing what you need to do, you're leaving money on the table. Get it off, it's yours. Go and get it. Put it in the bank. Make sure it's yours. Use the system to your value and to your benefit. It truly, truly is that. It really is. But any questions before I end off? Yes.
How does the calculation work around the deduction tax? And what is the 27? Where does the 27.5
So what you would be doing is you'd be saying, what are my earnings? Right? And you're going to go and list all of those. My salary, my rent that I'm earning because I'm renting out my property, etc. My interest that I'm earning because I've got money in the bank, etc. And you're going to add all of that up and get a total. And that total is 27.5% of that number.
27.5 of gross.
Gross.
And what is that deduct from? Does that deduct from the total tax burden, or how is that deducted?
So let's go and use our numbers here of 28,000 Rand, right? Our 27.5% was 7,700. Right? That means your taxable income is now 21,200. Yeah. It's actually 20,300. So where does it get deducted from? Your total, 27.5%, minus is my new taxable earnings.
That's not right.
Spot on. Lump sums, 20th of the month is our cutoff. Tax-free investments, 20th of the month is our cutoff. Get to us, have your numbers known. We look forward to having fun with you in retirement. There's nothing worse than sitting with a client who doesn't have enough. It makes life very hard.
The GP, one of the guests, they're going to use it.
The GEP.
GPA.
You're talking about
Going to
government.
takes me back to post-retirement. You did mention that there's a family working for the government and they want to buy into a discovery living on unity. Is that something that you would promote? Hence, I'm asking, aren't they like one of the best structured?
So consideration needs to be taken. How long were they contributing? What is the rules of that? Because it's very complex. That becomes a very different calculation. In many instances, I have a client, he's not in the room tonight. If he was, he'd put his hand up with glee and pleasure. He came to see me a number of years ago and he said to me, I'm not enjoying my job at the moment. I'm thinking of moving and changing. So I said, okay, great. Let's have a look at it. Where are you at? Let's look at your numbers. And I looked at his pension fund statement and I called him up and I said to him, we need to talk. So he said, why, what's wrong? And I said to him, sadly, you are never leaving your employer. So he said to me, what do you mean? And I said to him, you are on a defined benefit contribution. You're on a defined benefit pension fund. That meant that if he stayed there, he would get his last salary forever. And government have some of those old. And if that is the case, that's a different ballgame. There is a combination of some of the old and the new. That becomes a totally different, so it's very hard to say. You can only have a government annuity if you're in government. Limits half of it.
Only that type of growth, X amount doesn't increase, that's what he gets. And if pocket down the line as well.
Except for my client. And sadly or happily, he loves his job. He is still there. And every time he sees me, it is one of the best things he ever could have heard. So it's not, there's no one size fits all. We give you the rules.
So for example, show me what has he done? Because if he's working for government,
No, he's not.
all he's not.
He's not working for government. He's working for a corporate who still has, he's been there long enough that he's on a defined benefit. There are very, very few people that are, because they don't survive. The scheme cannot survive inflation.
Also, the example they specifically for him with his structure as the accountant.
And like,
Not in relation to the-
and I cannot say that government have the best living annuity because it's not always the case and it's not always possible. I have government officials that have retired and I have placed them in an annuity outside of government. So it's not a one size fits all, but it's important to know the options.
My dad is with the government pension fund. And the point you made in the beginning was know what you signed up for. Know if it gets linked to inflation, know if there's an increase. Luckily, my dad was clever enough to sign for that increase. And he's now 85, he's been on pension for 30 years because in 1994 he was asked to go on pension. And that decision's really suited in his head. So know what you signed for.
But tonight we're on free. That's post. Whole different ball game and we can go down that road. Save, Barry.
Spoken about tax free, I started one with ABSA because it was easier to put on the app and the way we went. So 1 March, I'm about to pay another 36,000 into it until tonight. So thank you for that. And can I now take it out of that ABSA and put it into something that you might recommend, or do I just start another?
You can, it'll reduce your 500. Again, it's not a one size fits all. In some instances, you can do transfers across to another institution, but now we get a bit technical. In all likelihood, you will leave that one and continue to leave it there and start another one.
Sorry, I'm a youngster. You run for a scenario where it's like percentage account would benefit me. Yeah, I wouldn't know what's to start.
Nothing.
Yeah, that's
And that is probably the best way to understand it. It is there for an absolute emergency. If the wheels fell off the bus, it's yours. You can access it. But you actually want to see it as this is topping up my money when I retire. It's there for an emergency. It's there for when I need it, or it's there for a legacy that I'm going to leave to my kids if need be. It's just making use of a vehicle that governments have made available. It's not critical. You know, it's not, Lindsay loves it. And I go, Lindsay, I hear you, but it's maybe we could spend the next 5 minutes talking about something that might be a bit more beneficial. Having said that, it's there. Use it. Why not use something that's there? So I'd be saying any money that I don't particularly think I'm going to ever need, put it away. It's there. I don't know if that answers your question. And watch it grow, because our lifetime amount is 500. But if we start to take compound interest, we know that it's going to end up at 3-4 million. And imagine how that will help you when you are 65. So it's not the 500 now and okay, it's only going to be worth 500 then. No, it's going to compound and grow, and then it's going to be substantial. Right now, 3,000 Rand a month, 36,000, and I'm flippant when I say these numbers. And I obviously am aware that budgets and income, and we're all at different stages of our life. Accept where we are, move forward, and do something about it, because we can't go back. I'm watching, and I think maybe we can. I'm watching at the moment a movie that is called the Miracle Morning, and it's the Miracle Morning. It's an old movie, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years old, I think, and it's just. I tell you the story because there was a youngster who had a head-on collision, ended up in hospital. They told his family to come say goodbye. He wasn't going to make it. He made it. They said he'd never walk again. He walked again. They called him in, his parents in, and they said to him, listen, you know, we don't understand what's going on with your son. There's something wrong, and we don't understand it. Every time we talk to him, every time we see him, every time anybody new comes into the room, he's cracking jokes and he's laughing and he's just too happy. Something is wrong. There's got to be something wrong. And they asked him, they said, what are you doing? Why are you playing the fool? He says, no, if I'm going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, I'm going to be the happiest person in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. I can't do anything about what's happened, but I can do something about what's going to happen. And why did I tell you that story? Where did it go, Mick?
You answered it by
And I think it's just it's worth a watch. It's a long movie, but it just gives you some thoughts.
Just got a couple of I think that.
We are going to end the online recording, so if anybody does want to leave off, you can. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will be wrapping it up. Yes, Meg.
This interest, compound interest, and then end of the rate.
No. Compound interest is growing.